Welcome back to the Oscar Project Podcast, the show where I discuss Oscar-nominated films year by year. I am your host, Jonathan Eacherberg, and today I am bringing you an interview with Louisa Connolly-Burnham, director of the short film Sister Wives, which has screened at multiple film festivals this year, including the 2024 Holly Shorts Film Festival. Before I jump into the interview, please be sure to subscribe to the show in your podcast player so you can get all the newest episodes as soon as they are released. If you like the interview and want to hear more, please consider leaving a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Louisa Connolly-Burnham is an award-winning director and screenwriter from Birmingham who founded the production company Thimble Films in 2019 and is a member of the female filmmaking collective Cinesisters. Several of her previous shorts, including The Call Center and The Track, have had successful festival runs, and she joins me today to talk about her latest film, Sister Wives. Louisa, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jonathan. Thank you for having me.
So this film explores a relationship between two women that develops the wives of a man in a polygamous culture. Where did the idea for this film come from, and what made you want to tell this story in particular?
I've always been really interested in the dynamics within various cults. I think that the politics, the hierarchy are always really interesting. And I discovered the cult that Sister Wives is based on through an amazing documentary on Netflix called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, made by a wonderful group of female filmmakers. And they really focus in on this cult or community in Utah called the FLDS. They're essentially an extreme group of Mormons where polygamy is encouraged. The men have many, many, many wives, and there's lots of obscure things happening within that group. They also look really interesting because the girls can't cut their hair. They only really wear pastel-coloured prairie dresses. They sort of look like they're living in the Victorian times.
Right.
But they're not. It's happening today. They are alive and well and functioning now in 2024. But there's also lots of very scary things happening there: child marriage, teenage pregnancy, domestic violence. I'd seen this group explored a lot on documentary, but I hadn't seen it explored in narrative film, so I really wanted to have a pop at it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'll have to check that documentary out. I haven't seen that one yet. And you mentioned, that, they seem like they're kind of living, a couple centuries ago, based on their dress and all of that. And when I first started watching the movie, I thought just that. It felt like it was, set in the, 1800s and kind of the middle of nowhere. But then we see at the end, we have the modern technology. There's a cell phone which pops up at one point as a key part of the plot. We see a car towards the end. What did you want to say by, obviously you're telling a story of people who are actually out there, but what did you want to say by trying to juxtapose these two worlds in the way you did in the film?
I really always enjoyed that moment from M. Night's film The Village, where you think you're watching a period drama and then halfway through you see them stumble out onto a road and a car drives by. I always loved that moment, and I wanted to have a similar impact with Sister Wives. Again, the group that this is based on, like, a lot of them don't have phones or internet or anything like that. It's weird that they're living in this sort of kind of time capsule. I wanted to show how far removed they have become from that side of things, and how technically, like, physically close they are to it, and yet how isolated they feel from it, whether that's by choice or whether that's been inflicted upon them. I think it's going to be different family to family. But I definitely was trying to go for a little bit of a shock factor there with that moment.
Yeah, it's almost like they could just be over that next hill and you never know they were there, and they would never know that the rest of the world is on the other side.
Yeah, it's kind of like a state within a state.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. They have their own rules. They have their own dynamic, their own laws almost. They're kind of left alone by the state of Utah, which is kind of odd, and I think it's how they get away with so much.
Yeah, sure. Now, tell me a little bit about the casting of the film. You are obviously the director, but you play one of the sister wives in the film. Were you always planning to play one of the two characters? And then also, how did you kind of come across the best actors to portray the other sister wife as well as the husband in the film?
So I've been an actress for a very long time, about 20 years. I started when I was quite young. So what's lucky about that is I've met so many actors along the way, and I've worked with so many. So I've made 5 films, and I haven't actually yet had to use a casting director. I've been pulling lots of favors with friends and colleagues.
Sure.
Although in saying that, I would absolutely love to work with a casting director soon. I don't always act in the films that I write and direct, but with Sister Wives and with the character of Cadence, I did sort of write her to my strengths, and I really loved her, and I really, really wanted to play her. So she was always going to be mine. And then regarding the 2 other main characters, Mia, who plays my sister wife Galilee, I've known her for years. We've worked together on a show called Vampire Academy, which was an NBC show, which we shot in Spain in 2022. And not long after we wrapped that show, I started writing Sister Wives, and I always hoped that that she would do it. I'm still surprised that we got her, because she was right in the middle of all that madness for that film How to Have Sex, that was released through Mubi. It won at Cannes, and she won the BAFTA and the BIFA, and I didn't think she'd say yes, but she did, and I was so thrilled. And then Michael Fox, another astonishing actor who plays my husband, him and I went to primary school together, and we've known each other for I guess I should say kindergarten. We've known each other for over 20 years. And then the 3 girls in the woods are 3 of my best friends. We all met working at a day job together, selling insurance at a call centre in North London. So it really was reliant on pulling lots of favours. And I feel very grateful that we got such incredible talent on Sister Wives.
Yeah, it was excellent to see them, and nice to have friends that are willing to jump in like that for you.
Exactly.
Now, I also wanted to touch a little bit about the music and the sound of the film. Obviously, we already talked a little bit about the juxtaposition between the 2 different worlds. How did you go about using sound and music to help make that juxtaposition a reality in the film?
So the music was made by an incredible composer called James New, who has actually composed 4 of my films now. What's interesting about James is he doesn't come from a film composition background. He's actually a music producer. He does kind of dance and R&B and indie music. He's not a soundtracker, really. But my favorite soundtracks are kind of synthwave, shoegaze. Like, I love the soundtrack for Drive and Love Lies Bleeding and Lost in Translation. I like it when you can feel the music vibrating in your skin.
Sure.
I think a lot of people thought that I would approach the music for Sister Wives more orchestrally, coming from a more classical angle. But I think what's interesting is the moment the music comes into Sister Wives is very close to the moment where you... Oh, sorry if you can hear those sirens. I live in a very crime-laden area of South London, so there's lots of ambulances and police. But yes, so the moment that the music comes in Sister Wives is quite near to the moment where the audience realizes that it's actually modern day, which is kind of why I wanted to explore that more kind of modern, contemporary, pulsy music rather than going down kind of violins, pianos, harps. It's just not really my vibe. Maybe I will do a soundtrack like that one day, but so far I'm kind of strictly synthwave.
Makes sense. And also too, obviously there's a lot that goes into making a film like this. Where did you find the location for the little cabin that the sister wives and their husband live in? Was that something that you were aware of and you kind of always wanted to shoot there, or was it, did somebody help you scout that location? How'd you come across that?
I found that location. I still cannot believe I found that location. We didn't work with the locations team. Again, I haven't worked with the locations team yet, but I really would like to, because finding locations is bloody exhausting. This is not the most interesting story. I typed in log cabins in the UK into Google, and a lot of the ones that I saw that I loved were up in Scotland, but most of my crew and my cast were in London, and short film budgets are tight, and I wasn't sure whether we could justify getting everyone up to Scotland.
Sure.
And then I found a log cabin in a place called Surrey, which is very close to London, and it was like the most perfect log cabin for this film. I went to visit it. It was even more beautiful in person. It was quite small. It was very, very tight in the kitchen scenes and like the living room scenes. It would have been nice to have a bit more space there. But it was wonderful. And what was even better about it is it had loads of other it was based on a farm, and it had loads of other little cabins. So we all stayed on this farm. I actually slept in Cadence's bed. So I was really like living and breathing that 360 set, going full method. No, not really. But it was very sweet because we sort of created a cult. So we were like living the film. Literally, we were like living as sister wives on this farm, all in various log cabins dotted around. It was so cool.
That's really cool. So you filmed the interiors there as well? It was all shot right there on location?
Everything, interiors, exteriors, everything was shot on that farm.
Wonderful. That's always good that we can do it all in one place.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions not specifically related to the film, but before I move on to those, is there anything else you want to touch on about Sister Wives?
We are kind of a few months into our festival run. It's been going really well so far. Most recently, we won the LGBTQIA+ award at Holly Shorts, which is really exciting. Maybe one for the UK listeners. We have found a UK home for the short. It's going to be in collaboration with Film 4 and Channel 4, and we're getting like a year-long run in the UK from the end of the year.
Oh, fantastic.
And there's lots of festivals coming up that you can catch it at. We've got showings coming up in New York, Florida, Cincinnati, Sheffield, Bolton, Wales. So if you follow us at Sister Wives Film on socials, you'll be able to keep up with all that stuff.
Wonderful. We'll definitely put a link to that in the show notes so people can keep an eye on where the film's heading. Now, this might be the hardest question I ask, but if you had to pick your top 3 films of all time, what would they be?
I am going to stick with my female filmmakers. Portrait of a Lady on Fire by Celine Sciamma, Lost in Translation by Sofia Coppola, and Fish Tank by Andrea Arnold.
Excellent. Good choices. Now, a little bit similar kind of question, but if you could invite any 3 movie characters to your next dinner party, who would they be and why?
Probably Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, just because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings nerd.
And he can bring the fireworks too.
He can bring the fireworks. He can bring that big pipe. He's clearly smoking something really fun, and I would probably like to engage in that. I would probably go for Edna from The Incredibles. So she could give me some fashion advice. I feel like she'd be a really great conversationalist, and she'd add a little bit of sass.
Definitely.
And then this one again, this is sort of going back to my favorite films. I really want to invite the character of Bob Harris, played by Bill Murray in Lost in Translation, to see if I can get him drunk enough to tell me what he said to her in her ear at the end of the movie. I feel like if we got him enough tequila, we might be able to finally work out what he said.
Yes, yeah, that's a never-ending mystery. I actually I interviewed a woman who had written a book about Lost in Translation about a year ago, and I had asked her what she thought that he said, and of course it's not really the point, but it would be always fun to find out what he said, what he whispered in her ear.
Do you remember what she thought that he said?
I don't think she really gave me a firm answer. It's kind of one of those things. It's if we were supposed to know, Sophia would have let us know what he said, I guess.
I'm trying to think. I've never really. I'm trying to think what I think that he said, but I'm trying to decide between like what do I think he said and what do I wish he said.
Right.
So
yeah.
me being a romantic, and thinking that if you're in love with someone, then you will find a way to be together if you're destined to be together. So I like to think he said like, this isn't the end of our story. We'll find each other again.
Yeah.
But I think what he probably said was something along the lines of, you are brilliant, life is long, you're gonna have a beautiful life,
something encouraging
of joy and excitement, and the best is yet to come, or something.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Now, do you have any books that you could recommend that you've read recently? They could be fiction or nonfiction and don't have to be related to movies.
I would recommend The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I recently finished that, and I cannot believe it has not been made into a TV series or a film. I did a little bit of a deep dive on Google, and it looks like Donna Tartt has been offered quite a few times by various different people to develop it into that. But it doesn't seem to have worked out yet. Who knows? Maybe I'll get my hands on it.
Hey, keep chasing it. It might happen. Great. So we'll put a link to that as well. And lastly, before we wrap things up, you already mentioned the Instagram for the film itself. But do you have any places where people can follow you on social media, as well as any other projects that you have in the pipeline that you're working on right now?
Yeah. So follow the film at Sisterwise Film on all socials. You can find me on Instagram at Louisa Connolly-Burnham, or on Twitter at Louisa C. Burnham, or X. I guess we should call it X now. We don't want to get sued.
It's always going to be Twitter.
don't want the Oscar project getting sued by Elon Musk. And then regarding what's next, I'm really excited to say that we are turning Sisterwise into a feature film.
Excellent.
And if all goes to plan, we are going to shoot that next summer. So we shall see.
Wonderful. We'll keep tabs on on your socials so we can see some updates for that, hopefully.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Jonathan. It was so lovely chatting to you.
Yes, thank you, Louisa. I really enjoyed you sharing the film with me, sharing the stories of the journey making it, and I look forward to hearing more from your stories in the future.
Awesome. Chat to you soon.
Thank you again to my guest today, Louisa Connolly-Burnham. Her short film, Sister Wives, is playing at festivals throughout the world this fall. The Oscar Project podcast is written and produced by me, Jonathan Eacherberg, with editing assistance from Joshua Eacherberg. Please be sure to come back for my next episode, where I will be speaking with Birdie Wei Ting Hung, director of the short film A Brighter Sunny Day for the Lady Avengers. Until then, I hope to see you at the movies.